it's very challenging doing the work we are doing. A long time ago, I received hate messages. I received many of resistance actually from people in the urban design field telling me what feminism has to do with urbanism, what gender has to do with streets, and they didn't really get it. And now it's easier. Sometimes it is being pushed into stuff, but it's at least heard of more. The night should be guaranteed to everybody and everyone, and especially women and girls. Men are actually ruining this right for women and girls in the dark.
If you wanted to change just one thing in every city overnight, what would that be?
Okay, this is very funny because I'm just writing about it in my book, and it is a bit funny. So it's not a change in city actually, but I would want to test a curfew for men. So men curfew is something I want to experiment very much, and let's see how cities will shape up for women.
Imagine walking home after dark. The streetlights are out, and every footstep behind you feels louder. That's not imagination for millions of women, it's daily life. Today, we are talking about how to change that. By the end of this episode, you will know why our cities fail women and what we can do to change that. Our guest today is Dr. Nourhan Bassam, feminist urbanist architect and visiting professor at TU Berlin, TU Delft, and other global institutions. With more than 15 years of experience across Europe and MENA region, she bridges research with practice to reimagine cities. She is the founder of the Gendered City and FEM.DES network, the world's largest feminist design network, with 570 plus experts in 35 countries. Her groundbreaking work on nighttime urbanism, including initiatives like Women After Dark, questions safety, freedom, and belonging after sunset. Author of The Gendered City, and with her upcoming book, Women After Dark, she continues to aspire how cities can be more equitable. And while her work is global, the themes of safety, inclusion, and access resonate deeply with Indian cities like Delhi, Mumbai, Bengaluru, where women's right to move freely is still contested. Today on the podcast, we'll explore her journey, her vision to feminist cities, and why the right to the night matters everywhere, including here in India. Noran, welcome to the Human City. It's such a pleasure to have you. Jane Jacobs once said cities have the capability of providing something for everybody, only when they're created by everybody. When I read that line years ago, it stuck with me because so many of our cities today are not created by everybody and for everyone. Noran, you have been one of the strongest voices trying to fix that. Tell me, when was the moment when you realized that the city wasn't built for me?
I think for me, it started super early. Ever since I was young, maybe at 6 years old, I have a very feminist dad. I'm so grateful for him because he introduced me to feminism and what is patriarchy. I started reading all the feminist literature from Simone de Beauvoir to Audre Lorde to all different feminisms as well. And as a woman of color, I realized as well what is white feminism and how to counter attack intersectionality. So I understand very well how different bodies live in space and how everyone is perceived differently in spaces. But professionally, I realized while I was doing my PhD in urban design and placemaking, I was very much focused after reading Jane Jacobs' books that you just quoted. I realized that I love working with communities, but more importantly, working with women and girls communities and these voices that for the longest have been silenced in the public realm. So ever since 2019, when I founded the Gendered City, my organization, I've been working very much closely to participatory urbanism. And when I started wanting to write my book as well, Gendered City, I started with a questionnaire, how cities keep failing women, and I had this online and offline testimonies that I call human data, not only numbers, but testimonies about how cities keep failing different bodies and different intersectional perspectives. And I wrote the Gender City as well to document everything and to document these testimonies. It's very challenging doing the work we are doing. A long time ago, I received hate messages. I received many of resistance actually from people in the urban design field telling me what feminism has to do with urbanism, what is gender has to do with streets, and they didn't really get it. And now it's easier. Now sometimes it is being pushed into stuff, but it's at least heard of and more Yeah, this is pretty much it.
Right. So you describe yourself as feminist urbanist. I guess this is the first time I've really heard this from someone. It's even in your email signature. But for
Yeah.
many people, the feminist still carries baggage. So where does this framing come for you? And what does it really mean in the context of cities? Because it's something new for people to understand.
I think I'm the first one to ever call myself feminist urbanist, and we all know it's the F word, and it has been stigmatized for the longest. And part of actually our movement and the resistance we are holding in the day to day is to change how the word feminist is stigmatized. And I think it's an output of patriarchy, because patriarchy would want people and women not to gather into an umbrella of one terminology that calls for equity. So I've heard many women actually, they don't want the stigma, so they tell me like, I'm not a feminist or anything, but I really support what you're doing. So it's still, and actually there are people from the West, and there are people should be very progressive, and they say like, no, 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 I'm not feminist, like, it's kind of a disease or something. So they conform to, oh no, no, feminism, no. And I mean, feminism is so simple. It calls for equity, and if you are a woman and you don't want equity, then I cannot help you. So I mean, part of what we are actually doing, like as small feminist revolutions, is to educate people what is feminism and what feminism is doing in urbanism, and how as urban designers and spatial designers we're calling for equity, and equity for different bodies, and how it's very intersectional, and it's for the 99.9%. So maybe it's when we change this perspective and have this holistic perspective of design, we will design better, because for now I know that it's not working for everyone. So I think our goal, and we are obliged as designers as well to put different perspectives. I always say it's not a conspiracy theory that designers, and for the longest we have been designing in isolation in offices, doing the universal generic designs. But sometimes I feel it is the patriarchal conspiracy theory, or maybe when I'm like more and more growing up, I see how systems protect themselves, and sometimes it is patriarchy protecting itself over and over again, because you realize that actually people might know what it entails or how to design with these perspectives in mind and with diversity, but they choose otherwise. It's the easy way to conform, and it's definitely the hard way not to conform and to always be the opponent voice on the table. So it's not always easy. It comes with hatred. It comes with challenging systems, and they systems fight you back. So I think we are here and we are resisting, and hopefully it will lead somewhere.
But again, we come from this background, so maybe we understand this. But like you said, that patriarchy is something they understand you growing up. So how do you tell a 5-year-old what you are trying to do? Because for them, it is more like what is accessible for them. And
Mhm.
maybe if for them, if they have a playground within the society, that's enough for them. But when it comes to, city perspective, how do you make them understand?
It is about, again, the participation and placemaking, and this idea of designing with people for people. And so it is a no size fits all. And I think one size fits all is a very masculine idea of designs. But when you realize that there's no one fixed solution, then you are trying to design for people and with their constellation. And we have come to realize as well, designing with communities like girls or teen girls or vulnerable bodies or girls from specific backgrounds that are not very much integrated. Then you hear very much different stories and perspectives, and having these perspectives represented on decision tables. So for instance, the MOGA prototype or the multi-use game area of a playground, it always have the same dimensions. It's either football or basketball game area. And it has been very much highly dominated, terrorized by young males. It reaches even more than 98% males, while women or girls are usually on the periphery of these playgrounds. They are not really using it. So when designers started to consult with teen girls and have them represented as a stakeholder, actually, as a client, Then these teen girls into the equation made it very much easier to understand what they would want in a game area. They would want to do physical activity still, but not in the Muga prototype or the multi-use game areas, maybe in swings. Maybe they have certain ideas as well about visibility. They want to see and not be seen. They want their body somehow protected. Even a simple car that is parked beside the playground can really affect that they're willing to play in the playground because they would feel seen or very much exposed to strangers. So understanding this and knowing their different needs actually can very much change how you design parks. So it's not a block anymore. It's not a universal block of a certain playground, but these girls in this very much specific neighborhood, in this specific park, they would want this park this way. But knowing as well that again, it's not all a universal solution. So you need to know that every place would need to consult with their clients who are the community and who are the people that lives there. So you need to respect the environment and the ecology. We need to respect the bodies and the different needs for different bodies.
So I want to discuss about this global feminist design network, the FEM.DES. What is it really about? How does one become a member? What kind of support or exchange do they get when they're joining? Why did this idea really come into the first place?
2 years ago, I realized not a lot of people are working in our field for feminist design experience in general. We are majorly people who work in architecture and urban design. So the FEMDES is, and again, I'm very much about global perspective, not a very Western white look of feminism. So we need to understand how actually women and girls communities live and experience different cities in different parts of the world. And I'm very grateful that we have now reached 570 fem experts and we have chapters. So we work to understand the culture and language barriers as global chapters. And we have established 35 global chapters with 35 global leaders. And we are very much active in different parts of the world. So Mexico City, Bogota, Kolkata, Vancouver, Montreal, Europe and Berlin, Amsterdam, Vienna, and Brussels, and we have even from China and Japan in our network. So I'm very grateful for this, and it's an educative journey even for all of us. So we hold webinars. It's usually this chick-ins or catch-ups every once in a while, but most importantly, people in these cities, as I mentioned, because of the language barrier, culture barrier, they meet monthly, sometimes twice a month. They're very active. They have their own series of fem labs and they explore certain places in the city. We have as well initiated the Fem Dark stations as part of Women After Dark and FemDes Network and discuss transit, mobility, and after dark mobility and challenges they face. We've been doing a lot of feminist walks to understand different contexts in different parts of the world. This is part of us understanding that no country has reached gender equity. We are challenged every part of the world. So the FemDesk is a forum that you apply for, and then we get in touch with you and see where you are located in the world and how we can connect you to this certain FemDesk chapter that is going on. And so I'm very grateful actually for having this network and having space and support and sharing. You feel great that these women exist in different parts of the world and they're willing to do a change. And it's amazing to see how everyone is handling these issues differently and in different parts of the world. And as I mentioned, and ultimately we want to do projects, change, revitalize areas, and always funding is something that we are seeking in order to make it a more sustainable. And with everything happening in the world, this has not been the easiest times for our work, I have to say. I mean, we are existing, and our existing is our resistance. We are here and we are growing actually massively. It's overwhelming.
You mentioned about funding that, whenever someone has a new project, especially your projects like Women After Dark, Women at Atlas, Gendered City Index, where is the money coming from? Whatever good idea you have, till the time you don't have money, nothing is sustainable. So is it the government is backing you, or you have private players, or mostly community energy, which is part of it?
Funding is our everyday challenge, and it's majorly EU funded projects. We've been always diversifying and looking to diversify our funds. It has never been easy, but we are always looking for new streams. So sometimes we are supported by municipalities like the local government, and others we are always seeking philanthropies and diversifying our funding streams. In different parts of the world, we are very much connected to uh, different agencies or whatever research agencies, academia, and you have different sort of partners. And our like our funding team and is a major day-to-day application writing processes we are going at. So it's not easy work. I think people might see it as nice, fun, interesting, but I have to say it is very much day and night kind of work. And as I mentioned, in my lowest days, I feel that, oh my God, it's easy just to be an urban designer as I am, or I teach in university, that would be easier. But as I mentioned, I love to see actual differences in the built environment and revitalizing areas, working with communities. This is the rewarding part.
You worked in different cities, you applied your tools across contexts. So, from your experience, what elements of gender exclusion are global and which ones feel more context specific?
Well, it's amazing to see that there is very much transversal gender challenges every woman face, perhaps in legislation or going to the police or reporting. It's challenging everywhere in the world. It's very much spatially as well challenging. But sometimes, of course, the openness even to discuss these topics might be different, like how your political will or political leaders would address these issues. I think eventually everything is political. If you have like someone or a with a political will, or a party that is interested in these type of topics, then it's easier to pitch ideas or to find support and to find continuum. I think as well, the power of people is unmatchable. Many voices that you cannot silence anymore. And as a politician, you'll find this is what actually people would vote for you if you do, etc. Then they will find that this topic is necessary and they would put it on the priority of their politics acts. And we have seen around the globe as well, when there are more like the female mayor, or like some women, not necessarily all women leaders are feminists, but when there are some mayors that are very much have this topic on the top of the list of their priorities, they have done amazing things, like Claudia Lopez in Bogota, like Ada Colau in Barcelona. And you find these cities actually made major, massive learnings actually to different contexts around the world.
For a long time, it makes me feel that women after dark or gender mainstreaming were mostly just Asian city problems, maybe something which is unique to our cultures and planning failures. So let me ask you, in your experience, do these pattern of exclusion look the same across continents, or they show up differently in different contexts?
Yeah, so I mean, we have always seen that there is like major issues maybe in some Asian contexts or African contexts, but there are very much global challenges, and you think the West would be doing better than this, but there is still no gender mainstreaming in many of the municipalities across Europe. It only exists in Vienna and in Umeå Kommun in Sweden, and it has done like actually major changes and enhancements of women's lives. But you see, it's not actually implemented even in the Netherlands. Like we don't have gender mainstreaming. So as I mentioned, in now femicide is very much on the rise, and in Italy, in the Netherlands, in European countries. You would think that the West is doing better, but it is not. Maybe in terms of some infrastructure, it's in terms of safety and having this safety element and perception of safety for different bodies is not actually embedded yet and not implemented. And this is why I started Women After Dark. We have the nighttime governance, we have the nighttime economy, but it's never with a feminist perspective. It's never about women. And I've started researching actually women as creatives, women as DJs, women as people who would want to thrive. And I always say that it is not only about survival, but it's about thriving. So we don't only want to survive in general, we want to thrive. We want the right to linger and just be in public spaces, not running around. This is the day to day living experiences of women. And I think for the longest, they're having no right to be in the night. And this is majorly not working. And I think if women accept to live like this anymore, So I think this is the real urban revolution, feminist urban revolution that we are talking about. It needs to be in streets, reclaiming the streets. Women are in these streets, wanted or not, and we are protecting other women, and we are being there, and we are having, our right to the night again. So there are many voices actually, and night walks actually happening now across the Netherlands, knowing that even in the Netherlands, women are not safe. The night should be guaranteed to everybody and everyone, and especially women and girls, because I think we need to call it as what it is. Men are actually ruining this right for women and girls in the dark.
I'm curious, advocacy is powerful, but it can also feel tangible. Can you share an example where your work, Atlas Women After Dark or Gender City Index, actually shaped policy or created any visible change on the ground? Because ultimately, you need some change on the ground to really understand, whether that advocacy is really helping.
So we have been developing a lot of assessment tools, and most importantly as well from Urban Atlas. It's a mapping tool that we have been aggregating data as spatial justice equity. And what you're talking about actually policy is the highest level of change. So this is ultimately why we aggregated data 2 years ago when we started to map according to spatial equity indices, streets, and very specific streets. For example, in places like Nieuwe West or certain neighborhoods in Amsterdam, and how these streets can be revitalized and enhanced. And from actually the places of trash cans can actually make a change on a certain curve of the street, from certain places where cars can be obstruct invisibility. So it is not, magic wounds and sudden changes that make something feminist. It's sometimes very much in changing a certain streetscape and a certain landscape in a street that can make a major change on the perception of safety. All of the indices, actually, data, it is part of what we do. It's not at all an easy job because, as I mentioned, it really much depends on political will. But having the indices and having the spatial equity elements can very much advise how we can change policies or what can be done in certain place. So it's very much contextual too. As I mentioned, we have been revitalizing and working with communities on belonging in different parts in the Netherlands. We've been running safety audits and enhancing running safety routes in different parts as well. So observation and gathering data is our first step for understanding the context. So we have been developing how to talk to society and how to talk with communities as toolbox or tools or indices or mapping tools. And the next level would be revitalizing or doing urban changes within the context itself. So gender budgeting is very important, and it's what's actually abstracting the work because we think it's costly. It's not our priority. We're not gonna spend money consulting with communities, and this is actually not only feminist placemaking or feminist perspectives. It's majorly the whole community participation aspect. So it's very much different from who is the mayor and they're willing to put these topics on the top list of priorities. So it is like really different levels of changes and different levels of projects that we have been looking. But ultimately is the policy change. And this is why we're developing indices that are not abstract, they are not GIS produced, or they are not big data, but they are community produced wisdom of communities, what we call it. So my last question, which I really want to ask all my guests, that if you wanted to change just one thing in every city overnight, or maybe in one city overnight, what would that be? Okay, this is very funny because I'm just writing about it in my book, and it is a bit funny. So it's not a change in city actually, but I would want to test a curfew for men. So men curfew is something I want to experiment very much, and let's see how cities will shape up for women. Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. So thank you, Ran. I guess you brought very interesting points, and your work has made me realize that this is not only Indian problem. I
Thank you so much for watching this episode. If you made it till the end, I'm truly grateful and thankful. The first thing you should do is hit subscribe so you do not miss any updates on the work we are doing here at the Human City. And if you'd like to see more conversations like this, share your ideas or request for any guest, please email at us on the given email ID. And don't forget to follow us on Spotify. Your support helps us grow this community and bring more value into these conversations. Thank you.